Hey guys, Ash McAuliffe here from the Asset Lab. We've got something a little bit different today. If you've ever thought about using your superannuation to invest in startup businesses, then you will want to watch this. We interview Clayton Daniel, who is setting up SproutSuper, and we also talk to him a little about the regulatory bodies that he had to deal with in getting this done. So enjoy.
Have you got pants on?
Yes.
Good. All right. Okay, guys. Today I'm here with Clayton Daniel. Now I'll tell you a little bit about Clayton. Amongst other things, he's a financial planner. He's also authored a book and called Fund Your Ideal Lifestyle. I'll put a link down there on so you can find it on Amazon if you're curious. But also, most recently, Clayton has decided to wade into the murky waters of setting up a new super fund, the new generation of super fund called SproutSuper. I'll also put a link down there below for that. But that's enough of an introduction. I don't want him to get a big head. I might start by letting Clayton talk to us about why he decided to go down this path. Last time we caught up, mate, a few months ago, you were telling me how difficult it was and how much work was involved in getting a super fund set up like this. Talk us through that. Hey, what's Sprout about and why you thought it was worth all of that effort?
Yeah, mate. Okay, cool. So if you go back far enough, started in accounting, did that for 3 or 4 years, and then 5 or 6 years in financial advice. And sort of at that scale, after dealing with 1,000 people with their money, you sort of learn, as you would know, what engages people, what doesn't. And once someone's engaged, they end up with a better financial result. Yeah. So as a financial planner, we almost personify that engagement, right? So a client will come in, they'll have bad money habits or bad money thoughts, and how they think about money, I should say. And then so we have a connection with them, a real connection, a human connection. Then we use that connection to direct them into better behaviors and better habits and better decisions.
Yeah.
So none of that is unique. I guess what's unique is I'm taking that philosophy that a very small segment of society understands, which is called financial advisors, and I'm backwards engineering from there a product to engage people in their money so that they make better financial decisions and ultimately get better results. And you're right, it's been a hell of a lot of work, but I'm pretty passionate about this subject, so I just put up with it.
Yeah, so and it's super is pretty important, right? It's aside from a house, it's the biggest asset that most people have come retirement time, and it's the less we're going to be able to rely on an age pension, the more we're going to rely on our own savings. The problem I would say is that superannuation is a little bit dry. It's not accessible. It's not front of people's minds, especially for the younger people. By younger, I mean under 40. So it doesn't really come into play until people are starting to think about retirement. But as advisors, we're trying to get people engaged earlier because we know the dollar you put in when you're 20 is going to be much more effective than the dollar you put in when you're 50 by the time it comes to retirement. So from what I can understand, your SproutSuper is going to be something that helps us helps people engage with their money a little bit more directly. There's a bit more control and.
Yeah, correct. So as you know, superannuation is simply a tax entity. It's not actually an investment. What you hold inside that tax entity can be many, many different investments. I think the reason people don't care about super is because they say, I can't spend it for a long time, right? Okay, you can't spend this money, but you also can't spend the money that's attached to a house, for example, right? So yes, the money's locked up, but when was the last time you could sell a brick, for example, to have a weekend away? the money is locked up in a house the same way it's locked up in a property. So the way that I like to think about it is superannuation, while you can't spend the money, there's actually a lot you can do with it, right? It's actually the biggest sum of investable wealth that 99% of people will ever have.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we look at it as I have my super fund in ABC, ABC super fund, and my investment is ABC, investment. Like, no one cares, right? It's all these sort of big picture incorporation names that don't mean anything. They turn up as a little pie graph with little colors in there and numbers, and you say, oh, yay, I've got 30% in Australian equity.
Well, yeah,
so
I'd argue that a lot of people don't look at that even. They just, hey, here's a bunch of money that I can't spend. So what? And they don't really engage with it, or don't really think too much about it. It's more of a hygiene factor than something to get pumped about.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. At best, people are apathetic, and at worst, it's outright disdain. As you said, they probably don't even open the envelope that turns up in the mail every year, which is crazy, right? Because it's the largest sum of investable wealth most people will ever learn, and people like to get involved, right? People like to invest. It's just at the moment, unless you have a self-managed super fund, which I have and is a pain in the butt. Yeah. People there's nothing really on offer. So what we're creating will be the first product ever where people can self-select a portfolio of startups that they care about, that they think is going to improve the world in a way that aligns to their values, while having the large majority, sort of 95%, doing that boring conservative piece. I'm not going to give people enough rope to hang themselves.
Yeah.
But certainly allowing people to actually use their money to invest in what they want, because superannuation is the worst name in the world. What does it even mean? I actually tried to look it up once, right? Because there's annuation, which means something to do with plants. Like, it's something to do with plants. And so superannuation is like a high grade quality of some horticultural event, right? It's the worst name.
And it's so long. And when you've got to write it so many times every day, it's...
Yeah, exactly. You sort of sit there wondering what the hell superannuation means. So I'm just renaming it. From the moment that my product comes to market, it's no longer superannuation. It's just simply your money.
Yeah. Perfect. And so you mentioned startup. So that's where people or members of Sprout, when it's available, will be able to try and get in early on the next Facebook or the next Uber, and sort of go through that almost like a Kickstarter campaign for a business that they share a value with, that they're passionate about. And that's something they can talk about as well. So through the process, you've had to engage with a few of the different regulatory bodies that oversee superannuation and maintain the superannuation regulations. Tell me how that went, because that sounded fairly frustrating and tedious.
Yeah. So overarching all of superannuation is superannuation law, which is called SIS for short, or superannuation industry supervision law, if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, which is a horrible bureaucratic name as well. Under that sits ASIC, and ASIC is sort of like the policeman of the SIS, and they make sure that everyone from self-managed super funds to all superannuation funds are compliant. Then under that sits APRA, and APRA is sort of like, there's not a policeman, but it's almost like a principal of a school, right? It's got a lot of authority, but they more come up with regulations on how to interpret ASIC, who have interpreted the law. So there's law, ASIC, APRA. And then at the APRA level, this is why what we're bringing to market's never been done before, because APRA hate it, right? Up until the Corporations Act change, which passed through law in February and is coming or being enacted into reality in September. So now they won't have that excuse not to allow this to happen anymore.
So in previous times, it wasn't available for retail investors. So that's normal people to buy a share of a startup business, because there was, and APRA were doing this for the consumer protection perspective. Yeah. Now that's being changed. So if you want to start a business, or I want to start a business, we can go out there and crowdfund equity of our business, and that's you've seen that coming, and you've pounced on it the moment it was legislated. So I think that's pretty smart.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Even the glasses make you look smart too. So from your perspective, there's the Superannuation Industry Supervision Act, the SIS Act, and under that there's those two bodies, APRA, ASIC, who have got a different job to do in maintaining of that. Then of course there's the ATO. How'd you go with those guys?
Yeah, so the ATO, believe it or not, actually have created something that's been helpful to the industry. A few years ago, they brought in something called SuperStream, which sort of is this, it's plugged into every single superannuation fund. And so when a member of any fund, you could go to your super fund right now, whichever you're at, call them and say, can you check my super? You can also go onto mygov.gov or whatever that thing is. And so the ATO have created this so that there is a central hub knowing where all your superannuation is. And by going onto my app, you'll be able to click a button, finds where all your super is, and then can consolidate it as well. So believe it or not, there's a government body that's actually made business easier rather than harder.
Yeah, I wonder if that was intentional. So basically when you've got clients, as you've probably had in the past, where they've had 6, 7 different super funds because they've had 6 or 7 different jobs, it's a really easy way to get them to get control of it and then do something smart with it. So like for my students at RMIT, we're about to talk about the regulatory bodies and how superannuation is governed. So this is probably a pretty helpful conversation for them. And how long did the process take from the moment you said, hey, we're going to do this, or when you put pen to paper on the first application to get this started? How long did it take?
Yeah, mate, that's a great question. So originally I started this 18 months ago because I saw the crowdfunding law coming. So I went around to a bunch of trustees. Now, a trustee is, if you think of it, it's probably closer to the school teacher, right? So a school teacher's like got a bit of authority, which answers to the principal, which answers to the police. And so the trustee is ultimately responsible. So when I went around 18 months ago, I said, look, this law is going to change. Are you interested in being a trustee of a super fund that does this? And everyone said, no, it's illegal. And so I had to wait 12 months for the law to be changed. Now, I'm still going through that process. Now, we've interviewed a handful of trustees, and that's a very hard job because you're essentially hiring your own boss, right? You're hiring your teacher to give you day-to-day instructions, and you're going to let them boss you around because they're ultimately responsible. So it takes a long time. And the only reason I'm allowed to have these conversations with these guys is because of my background and my experience, as well as the team, the board of directors and whatnot around me. Yeah,
cool. And so the trustee responsibilities are fairly extensive. So they're charged with making sure the fund adheres to the SIS Act, and then it's ASIC and APRA that come down on them if they don't. And then, as you said before, a super fund is just a trust that abides by the SIS Act and therefore is a compliant fund. If you don't comply with it, you then become a non-complying super fund, and that's what a professional trustee. What other, I guess, roles do you have in the super fund?
Sure. Then you've kind of got the business behind the super fund. Behind every super fund, there is what's called a superannuation administrator. And that's kind of like if you were to have a tutor. Like, they're smarter than you on everything, and they can do a lot of the work. And then maybe you just pay them an extra couple of bucks and they do all your assignments for you.
Yeah, they do the administration, they process the contributions, they process the withdrawals, they transfer the affiliates, et cetera. Yeah.
Yes.
They do the administration. Yeah.
Yes. And we're actually named a super administrator. And then they talk to the custodian. So a custodian holds money on behalf of the members, right? So there's no security issues as far as us getting hacked and their money getting stolen. because we're a financial institution, we have to outsource the holding of that money that we hold on behalf of members to a third party, which is called a custodian.
Yeah. So there's separation between you as the operators of a superannuation fund and the people holding the fund, and then the trustees who are sort of making sure that that everything's above board, and then the administrators making sure that everything happens.
Yeah, correct.
And so you had to apply for an AFSL for this? How did you go through that?
Yeah, so because what we're doing is extra tricky and never been done, I've actually had to pull on another stakeholder called an asset consultant. Right. Not all super funds have asset consultants, especially if they're quite simple. But because we're doing something a bit fancy, I brought on sort of an additional layer of credibility and cost into the super fund, so that APRA and ASIC are more likely and the trustee more likely to go along with what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're pretty comfortable that you've done your due diligence, and it's not just you and your crazy idea. It's you have to rigor around the process of getting this together. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. All the detail that's going to make all those governmental and oversight bodies happy. And so dealing with them, they are sort of that last linchpin in making it all happen. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So it's been a while in the process. I think it's a great idea, and I think you probably engage with a lot more customers because they can have a bit more of a say without having to go to the trouble of starting a self-managed super fund, which
absolutely
we're going to cover that off in a couple of weeks, RMIT. But it's not easy that the trustee responsibilities rest on you, and it's a bit hard to take your hat sometimes. All right, mate. Thank you for that. I just for a summary, there's the legislation. There's a couple of different government bodies that have all got their different roles, which we've covered off on. And at the end of the day, we've got a super fund that people can be engaged in and choose their investment in, and hopefully they get engaged earlier so that they'll result in the end of the day.
Absolutely.
All righty. Now, as I said, I'll put some links down there to Clayton's book, Fund Your Ideal Lifestyle. You're going on another holiday soon, I heard. Is that right? So. Yeah,
correct. Off to Vietnam. So looking forward to it.
Don't follow this guy on Facebook. All you'll see is holidays. So when you're sitting here in your cold office and you're looking at old mate on climbing mountains and going to beaches, it's not a little bit annoying actually, Clayton. And also, I'll put. I'm going to put the audio track from this on SoundCloud, so there'll be a link below as well for that. Also, obviously, a link to SproutSuper. What's the address, mate?
Yeah, it's a very early website at the moment, so don't expect much. It's really just for stakeholders to learn very high level about what we're doing. We're not reaching out to the public really at all, but happy to share it. Yeah. It's SproutSuper.com.au.
Nice, easy to remember. All right, buddy, I'll leave it at that. It's starting to get late, and thank you. See you later.
See you, mate. Wait.
Sort of.